Today, we're diving into a story about a really high-stakes journey. And at the center of it is what might be one of the most powerful farewell speeches ever recorded. It's a final goodbye from a leader who knew he was walking right toward his own downfall.
I mean, really think about that for a second. It's a heavy question, right? But that is the exact situation the Apostle Paul finds himself in here. And his final words to his closest friends and colleagues, well, that's what this whole story is really all about.
So, here's the setup. Paul is absolutely determined to get to Jerusalem for the festival of Pentecost. But this is not going to be a simple trip. Oh no. From the very beginning, this journey is just filled with threats.
He's literally about to set sail for Syria when, bam, he gets word there's a plot against his life. The direct sea route? Forget it. It's out. He has to pivot, like immediately, and take the long way back through Macedonia. And this isn't just some small detour, you know? This is a life-saving decision.
And hey, he wasn't traveling alone. What's really interesting is seeing who was actually with him. He had a whole support system, a dedicated team from all over the region who were right there with him for this incredibly dangerous leg of the journey.
So after about 3 months in Greece, Paul sails from Philippi and meets up with his companions in a city called Troas. They end up staying there for a full week, which, well, it leads to a very memorable and almost tragic night.
Yeah, that week-long stop in Troas? It's where one of the most startling events of the entire journey goes down, and it all starts with a sermon that goes on a little long.
So I want you to picture this. It's late, they're all gathered in this crowded, stuffy, upstairs room, and it's lit by a ton of lamps, so it's probably pretty warm. Paul knows he's leaving the next day, so he just keeps talking, and talking all the way up to midnight.
And as Paul's sermon marathon continues, a young man named Eutychus, who's sitting at an open window, starts to drift off. I mean, we've all been there, right? But then the unthinkable happens. He doesn't just nod off, he falls into a deep sleep and just plummets 3 stories down to the ground below.
The meeting just stops cold. Everyone rushes downstairs, and they find the worst possible outcome. The account says he was picked up dead. In an instant, a moment of community has turned into an absolute tragedy.
But then Paul goes down, throws himself on the young man, and puts his arms around him. And he says this incredible line, "Don't be alarmed, he's alive." Just like that, the crisis is over. And then, and you gotta love this, Paul, believe it or not, goes back upstairs and keeps talking until daylight. The man was focused.
Okay, so after leaving Troas, Paul is in a race against time to get to Jerusalem. He's in such a hurry, in fact, that he decides to sail right past the major city of Ephesus. But he can't just leave without saying goodbye. So he sends out an urgent message calling the church elders from Ephesus to meet him in the nearby port of Miletus.
When they arrive, he begins his farewell address, and check out how he starts. It's not with commands or orders, but with this really vulnerable reminder of their shared history. He's establishing his credibility not through authority, but through authentic, shared experience. I mean, that's a powerful lesson in leadership right there.
This question really captures the tension in the next part of Paul's speech, because he knows exactly what he has to do, but he has absolutely no illusions about what it's going to cost him.
And this is the real gut punch. He tells them straight up that he feels compelled to go to Jerusalem, but that in every city he passes through, he's being warned that prison and hardships are just waiting for him. The future is dangerous, and he knows it. But despite all those warnings, his resolve is absolute. He says he considers his own life worth nothing. His only goal, his personal mission statement, is to finish the race. It's just a stunning example of mission-driven leadership, where the personal cost comes second to completing the task.
Now, the speech pivots. He's laid out his own fate, and now he turns his attention to theirs. He's about to give them their final instructions for what to do after he's gone. This is succession planning in its rawest form.
He warns them they're going to be fighting on 2 fronts. First, there are the external threats. He calls them savage wolves who will attack the community. But then, there's something even more insidious, internal threats, people from their own group who will rise up and distort the truth. A great leader prepares their team for dangers from both without and within.
So what's the game plan? Well, Paul lays out their core duties. First, self-leadership. Keep watch over yourselves. Then servant leadership. Be shepherds for the community and help the vulnerable. And finally, strategic leadership. Remember my warnings and stay vigilant. In short, be on your guard.
He ends his charge with this beautiful, memorable principle, and he roots his final piece of advice in the words of Jesus himself. It's really the ultimate leadership takeaway. True leadership should be defined by generosity and service, not by power or personal gain.
The speech is over, and what follows is one of the most raw, human, and emotional farewell scenes you will ever read.
No more words are needed. Paul's first action after he finishes speaking is to just kneel down with all of them right there on the shore and pray. It's this moment of shared vulnerability and quiet dependence.
And then the emotion just pours out. The text is so direct, it just says, they all wept. They're embracing him, kissing him goodbye. This is not a formal farewell. It is a heartbreaking parting between dear friends.
And here's the core of their pain. It wasn't just the danger he was heading into. It was the crushing finality of his words. He had told them, "None of you will ever see me again." They knew this was it. This was the last time.
And so they escort him to the ship. Paul sails toward his uncertain future, having said everything he needed to say. And now, the question he wrestled with is ours to consider. For him, and for us, what does it truly mean to finish the race with purpose, with clarity, and with a legacy of service?